everyone, I'm Maddie Butler. I manage the social media and blog channels with Riley Blake Designs, and I'm so excited to be here in the studio today to make a fun sweatshirt quilt block upcycling project. It's a great beginner-friendly make, a good way to use an old sweatshirt, give it some new life, or a spare quilt block that you haven't done anything with. So, to start, you're gonna need a few things. Of course, you'll need a quilt block. I have mine already made. I've chosen an Ohio Star block. This is a free pattern on our website, and we'll link to it in the description of this video, but you can use any quilt block for this project. I've also got some pins, some scissors, some spray adhesive, and if you're making a quilt block brand new, especially for this project, you might want to utilize our Quilty color wheel. This is a great tool to make sure that the colors you're choosing all look really good together. So when I made mine, I knew I wanted to use periwinkle. I just turned my arrow right to it and then chose my coordinating colors based on that. So my colors are confetti cottons. I'm using periwinkle, rouge, and kiwi. Cindy has some fabulous tutorials with this on our YouTube channel as well, if you need help with this tool. Okay, so you've got your quilt block, you have your other supplies, of course you're going to need a sweatshirt. When I started this project, this is actually the first one that I made. So this sweatshirt, I wasn't wearing it a lot, it just needed a fresh start. And I thought, what better way than to add a quilt block to it? And I wore this to QuiltCon this year. So for my first edition, you'll see that it's got this stitching around the edge. For my second one and the tutorial we're doing today, I've eliminated that, so it's just a little bit different. I like this style better, but you can choose which one you prefer. This is the sweatshirt I'm going to work on today. It's just a simple gray crew neck. I'm gonna add my quilt block onto the back because I think that would be fun. I actually just got a haircut and I really want to show it off. So let's get started. You'll take your quilt block. Any size will do. The important thing is that you size it to the sweatshirt you're using. So I'm just gonna lay mine out here. And again, I'm doing mine on the back. You could do yours on the front. You could do sleeve ones if you have small blocks, anything you want to do. So when you have your sweatshirt, lay it all out. You'll get your block. Just make sure that your block size matches your sweatshirt size and that it's going to look how you want in the end. So for this tutorial today, the only part that you're gonna see is the colored pieces. We're going to eliminate the background. So my Ohio Star, I want it to be centered and I wanted mine to be large enough to fill most of this space. So I'm happy with this block size. If I was doing a smaller jacket or if I had seams here, I would want my block to be much smaller. So you'll just want to choose it based on the garment that you're sewing with. All right, so once you have the sizing down, you'll move it. We're gonna turn our sweatshirt inside out. We're gonna be sewing it to the interior part. So let's flip it around here. Make sure I'm still got my tag, I'm on the back. And there's a lot of quilted sweatshirt tutorials out there right now. They're definitely having a trending moment. For this one, the way we make it is at the end, after we've attached it, we're cutting away the actual sweatshirt material to let the block shine through. So to do that, we want the right side of our block against the wrong side of our sweatshirt. So I've got mine laid out, it's inside out. I'm gonna lay my block down and center it. If you need help centering your block, you can grab a ruler. I'm just gonna eyeball mine because my block's pretty large. I'm gonna want it right here. Let's get it just right. Great. And then this part you can choose. You could do some pins if you don't have a spray adhesive. I like using spray adhesive, so I'm gonna do that and then pin my corners. You just want a light dusting just to keep it in place while you're sewing. Okay. Another tip, if you're making a brand new quilt block for this project, is to press your seams open. That will help you be able to see where we're sewing better. If you're using a block you already had in your stash, that's no problem. You'll just follow the seam. All right, I've got mine in. I'm gonna just add those pins into the corners, like I mentioned before. just to make sure our block is very secure when we take it to the machine. Last one. Perfect. Okay, so now it's time to sew. So what we're gonna do here, as I said in the beginning, is I only want to see my colored pieces on the end final product. So I'm gonna be sewing along all of these seams. And you have some options here. You could do just all along the border, or as shown here, each individual piece. On this one that's on the mannequin, I did a mix of both. So on these corner pieces, I did individual cutouts. On my main star, you'll see here's some existing seams that I chose not to sew over, so that shows as one cohesive star. So you can choose. It's just a matter of which style you like. For this one, I am going to do individual cutouts and make my center be, but you could choose really anything you want. Okay, so here we go. You want to make sure that your bobbin and your top thread are the same color or matching the color of your sweatshirt if you want. And you'll take it to your machine, work it around, and then it's time to sew. And there's no like pattern that you have to follow to get this done. You can go back and forth. You might have to take it out, start in different places, because you want to make sure that you're tracking along every piece that you're going to cut out. So I'm starting up here at the top of my corner. And then you just sew. Let's go. When you get to points, you might have to pivot, leave your needle down, just drop it and twist your whole project. I'm gonna go along my whole outside border first and then work my way into the middle. I've just been stitching in the ditch all around here. And I mentioned in the beginning, this is a forgiving project. You can use whatever foot or needle you prefer. If you would like to use a jersey knit needle for your particular sweatshirt, switch that out. If you've got a favorite foot that helps you stitch in the ditch, choose that foot. Whatever will make the project run smoothest for you. Right, I got a little bunched up, so I'm gonna make sure I flatten it out. I don't want to accidentally stitch something I shouldn't. And before we do the interior, I'm gonna turn it inside out and just show you what we did. So let's flip it inside out. Be careful for those pins. You don't wanna, I almost lost one right here. Don't wanna lose one, don't wanna stick yourself. Okay, let's turn it out. Okay, so it's faint because I used a white thread, but you can kind of see here. Here is the outside border of my Ohio star. If I wanted, I could stop right here and go to the next step to cut it all out. I'm going to do my interior square as well. Just stylistically, that's how I want it to look. So let's flip it back, take it back to the machine. We're doing the same thing we just did, stitch in the ditch along my green interior middle square. Okay, I'm on my last part of my interior square here. Take it out. I'm gonna remove my pins because I'm gonna be flipping it all the way inside out. So let's take our pins out. Flipper. Okay, so here we go, same thing that I just showed you. So now I've got my outer edge, I've got my interior square. I could go through and do my other color along the red and the blue. I'm not going to, but you could choose, you could change your mind as you go. We're ready for our final step. So the fun thing about this is After you get to this step, it makes a good project on the go. You can just take your scissors and this, and those are the final two things that you need to finish this project. So we're gonna be doing two things. The first thing we're gonna do is cut out, well, we'll start on this side. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut out the shapes that we sewed around so that our quilt block can shine through. So what you'll do to start with that is grab some snips, your preference, but you want them to be sharp and small, especially if your block has smaller pieces. Mine are quite large, but if you had tiny piecing, so for this one, for example, these smaller squares, I really did need some pretty tiny scissors. So we used a spray adhesive, so it's kind of attached. What you wanna do, I should put my scissors down for this, is kind of roll the fabric between your fingers to separate it. It's hard to show this on camera, but you can kind of hear when you're doing it. You'll grab the cotton edge from below, the sweatshirt from the top, and pull. So do that kind of all around to separate the area that you're gonna make your first cut. And then when you're confident that your quilt block is not going to get cut, so I'm sure that right now I just have sweatshirt material and I'm in the center of my square, I'll take my scissors and just make a cut. Just a snip, so here's just a small hole. And then that's gonna allow me to stick my scissors in there and stitch out my sweatshirt all the way to the sewn edge, so where I sewed that line. Now you don't wanna cut through it, so just get close to it. And I have found the best way to do it is to work from the middle to the corners and then do your edges. So let's do that. Let's start here. I'm gonna make sure I only have sweatshirt fabric. Cut it away. I'm gonna cut all the way to my corner here. There you go. See, I'm not getting it perfectly into the corner, and you don't need to, just get close. It's better to be a little further away than to accidentally cut through your sewn seam there. So let's get our scissors. I'm gonna go to this corner, here we go. The thicker your sweatshirt material is, the better snips you're gonna need. So you really wanna make sure that they're nice and sharp. These scissors are doing great for this project. Okay, I'm going again. Here we go, another corner. Let's get all the way to that edge. Last one. Still, every time I'm putting my finger before I snip to just really make sure I'm not gonna cut my quilt block. All right, so you can see I've got it kind of open here. So now you'll just take your scissors, get it at a comfortable angle, get close to that seam. So I'm gonna get a little closer here to that stitched line, flatten the blade of my scissor, and then just cut it away. I really like the way that the sweatshirt makes a raw edge look. It's a very cozy look. You can decide how thick you want that to be. So the closer you get to your stitch line, the thinner the frayed edge will be, the further away, the thicker. It's totally a matter of preference. So you can kind of play around with that and decide which you like. Let me just show you what a thicker edge would look like right here before I thin it out. Also, my sweatshirt here is like a little bit more of a terry blend, so it's not super fuzzy. If you had one that had more fleece, this edge here would be a lot more, you know, like fleece, kind of more bunchy. And so just a matter of what you like better. I prefer mine to be a little closer, so I'm gonna go in and just kind of clean that edge up. But that's how you could make it look. You could also use like pinking scissors if you wanted it to have kind of a more curly edge. Very much up to you about the style. All right, this one is almost cleaned up. So I'm gonna take my scissors, I'm gonna do that same thing around all of these pieces, and I'll meet you back here. All right, so I've gone around all these edges. I'm just gonna do a little bit of cleaning up on some of these corners that I want to be a little thinner, and then we will flip it around. So these edges in between where the sweatshirt material shows through, as you wash it and wear it, it'll get softer and look a little bit more worn in. So that will make it look really nice. And then you'll see where I chose to not go through the pink and blue here. If I would have, it just would have had more sweatshirt lines. So it's just a matter of style, whatever you think will look great. Okay, so that's all we're doing on the back. We're gonna turn it inside out again for our very last step. Let's flip our sleeves out. So I've got background fabric from my block, and that just is bulky when you're wearing it. I like to trim it away, so same thing. I'm gonna just pull that fabric away from my sweatshirt material, get that spray adhesive out of there, and then take my scissors and just cut it out. This is on the inside, so you don't have to be perfect. You just want to remove the bulk. And again, you want to be careful. You don't want to cut any of the lines that you stitched that create the pattern on the front. So I am just going to do a rough cut here, get these corners out of the back. Go. And same thing with these points. I've got some background fabric here. I do not want the extra bulk on my sweatshirt. Just cut it right out. And work your way all the way around. All right, we're at our last corner. Let's get this part cut away. And then I will just show you what it looks like on the inside so you can see. All right, let's move some of our scraps out of the way. So here is what it looks like on the inside. I've cut away all of my background fabric, and you can see that there are some pieces that are larger than the other. You can go in and make that as precise, as clean as you want. You can get rid of all of these little threads. Totally up to you. I am gonna leave mine like this and let the washing machine help me with some of these threads. Let's flip it inside out. Last thing I'm gonna do is just a little press so that the fabric isn't so wrinkly on the front. We'll just shake it out here. I just wanna get some of the wrinkles out of my center square. I'm gonna move this one. Okay. There we go. Love it. All right, here we go. Here's our final product. I hope you guys love this project. Like I said, it's a really good beginner-friendly one, a good way to use an old quilt block. If you make it, we would love to see it. Tag us at Riley Blake Designs. And thank you so much for joining us.